another live interview with creators that we can't necessarily get down to the shop here at Empires Comics. And thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you, the ones who are doing it live, those who came later and watched. And today we have somebody who we have never talked to, and that I have enjoyed her work. So we reached out to see if we could get her on the program. We have Liana Kangas. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Accepting. Well, we'll talk. Well, let's get right to it. So the book you have coming out right now that everybody should be looking at is She Said Destroy through Vault Comics. And it was, Vault has really been exploding lately. Like they came on the scene. They had a nice little, there we go. We got the plot, which sold out and went to a new printing. They came on the scene and they made a presence, but over the last year and a half, I have just seen the numbers of people adding it to their saver just continuing to grow.
Yeah.
They are definitely doing something right. And I think one of the things that all of you are doing right to make this work is I feel you who put a lot of effort into reaching out to people.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like a lot of their creators are really passionate about not only, communicating with fans and like reaching out towards communities that would like their books specifically, because they, such a multifaceted with their sci-fi and fantasy genre, to where it's accessible for a lot more people than usual books like that. And the creators, I feel like they're very good at curating such phenomenal people in general. Not only are they very talented, but like everyone I've ever met at Vault has been super nice and like really friendly, and everyone just kind of cultivates this little family. That's really awesome. I think that's how we met. We met through DB, I think, right? So.
President comes out tomorrow. So what was I going to say? So how big is Vault? How big is that? Like the,
From who I've met, it's Adrian, Tim, and Damien. And I think, so we also know David, who does their marketing, and Ian, who helps, I think, run some operation stuff. Yeah.
They're able to do what they can do with such a small staff.
Yeah.
A little bit about She Said Destroy. You are, of course, the artist on this and co-creator, working with Joe. So give us a little rundown on the book, if you would.
Yeah, so She Said Destroy is a sci-fi fantasy. It's about two space goddesses that are at war with each other, essentially. They're two sisters, and one of the goddesses, Bridget, the goddess of the sun, she wants to take the remaining power from the Morrigan, the goddess of death, and kind of cultivate this power for, for herself and for her people, and to like provide for everyone. Or at least that's how I spin it. Joe supports me. We follow essentially the followers, which is the Fae, who follow the Morrigan, and the Light Knights, who follow Bridget. And we kind of see sort of like kind of a Star Wars-y thing where you follow the people who are of that belief and what happens when they clash with each other.
So you guys are co-creators. How did you guys know each other prior to this? Did you know each other from cons? Did you hook up through Vault? What was the process?
Yeah, so actually my first ever published comics work that was like solicited through Diamond was actually through the Mine Anthology that Joe actually edited. He co-edited it with Molly, and it was cool. We met at Forbidden Planet, I think, and then that was the first time I actually met Vita as well, who I've also done a book with. So that book really, introduced me to all my future collaborators, really.
As want to look for. I pulled off one off the shelf. That's what you want to look for on the shelf. There are 4 issues out, I believe, at this moment. And after 5, you're going to get a trade paperback. Oh, the 5th one is already out. Okay, so then that means the trade drop like soon.
Very soon. I think it's November 20th. Yeah.
Comic book stores, see if they've got issues. But of course, if you can't find them all, the trade paperback is coming out very. Anything after this, or are you taking a break?
So I do have a couple things going on, and I am taking a little bit of a break, somewhat for the rest of the year, just because I've worked so much this year. I think I posted on Twitter something around doing. I think I've done almost 8 issues worth of work, not including covers and things like that so far. So I'm just taking it slow, but Joe and I actually we are co-writing something that I can't announce yet, which is really fun because I've always wanted to write, and Joe is helping me with that. And he's a really good collaborator on that too, because he's teaching me a lot. And I'm also working on a really good pitch with Scott Bren Wilson, who I actually met on the Where We Live tour, signing tour. And we were friends back when I lived in Jersey. So we're doing something really cool with that. We're finalizing a lot of pages for that. And I'm really excited. It's something that I'm really into. So, and I'm into She Said Destroy and everything. But it's kind of a complete opposite genre of what She Said Destroy is now. So.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Where We Live.
Mm-hmm.
Anthologies that are actually for a good cause, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that?
For a good cause, it was All We Ever Wanted. No, that was just another anthology. So tell us about the. You've done a lot of anthologies, evidently. I'm racking my brain thinking of them. Which is, I mean, that's kind of fun because you get to be part of something bigger, I imagine.
100%. And a lot of them were for charity based too, which is fun. I think All We Ever Wanted and Deadbeats were the only 2 charities anthologies that I've done that weren't charity related. So Where We Live donated, I think it won an Eisner and a Ringo now, just announced this past weekend, donated to I think it was Highway 67, to go towards the families of the victims of that shooting. And then Everything Is Going Wrong was all towards the Trevor Project. And mine was for Planned Parenthood.
We jumped right into your work and we're going over all of these things that you've done. But let's step back a second so we can get to that point and find out just a little bit more about you. Like, how long have you been into illustrating and comic books?
Oh, wow. I think that I've been illustrating for a long time. I really wanted to do fine art in like my teens / early adult years. And I started illustrating when I actually ended up moving out of state. I'm originally from Florida, so when I moved, it was like a good opportunity sort of for a restart. So I couldn't take my job with me. And I started pursuing like doing illustrations for articles and stuff like that. And that's kind of how that started. And the Mine anthology was my first like official kind of not personal comics related work.
Somebody pull you in? Did you have to apply for it?
Yeah, so what's interesting is I think I met Pat Shand, who was the writer for the piece that I did, through either Twitter or I want to say maybe a mutual comics person. And he had sent out this post on Facebook saying like, hey, I need somebody for like a quick like 9-page short. Would anyone be interested? And I was like, I'll ask. And the worst he could say is no. So that's how it all happened.
So that was your first piece.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, had you done sequentials prior to that just for yourself?
I had. So I did, I think, a short, I want to say it was close to 14-page piece with my old roommate. And I've done like small, like little, digital scribbles and stuff like that for like autobiographical pieces. But that was about it. It's been a lot of learning on the job type thing. But luckily I've been like a comics fan for, since early teens. So hopefully it was like kind of muscle memory that I was flexing.
For your art, or is this just you practicing, teach?
What was the first part of that question? Sorry. Oh, school?
Just you teaching yourself.
Oh yeah. So when I went to community college, I took a couple art classes, but I was originally going for computer science, and then I kind of swapped majors and went all over the place. So a lot of where I learned how to do art was mostly like at home. My grandpa was a fine artist, and mostly just on the job, or either when I was like a teenager, I used to do like a lot of anime drawing from like all my manga, and like regular comic drawing from like just trying to like copy the same thing, or like drawing it for my friends. Like somebody would be like, I want you to draw this for me, so I'd like draw it.
It was just self-taught.
Yeah.
And then a natural ability and a little bit of learning on the side, and of course the on-the-job training, which seems to probably be the most important in these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because I mean, give us a rundown. What are some other things you've done? I mean, you've been doing this for a little while now.
Yeah, well, do you want me to start from the beginning, like art shows and stuff, or do you want me to just focus on comics?
Then my question is, okay, obviously you hit conventions now. Were you part of that community before you became a comic artist? Just selling print?
So I actually used to work at comic shops. I worked at one in Florida for a long time, mostly helping out, and I would do a lot of conventions that way. That's actually how I met all my favorite artists, and I was like, oh wow, like I would totally want to be like them one day. You know what I mean? I often call out Jim Mafood a lot because he's a super cool dude, and he's one of the first few that I've met that has been always consistently very nice. Every time I see him, he's always like, hey, Liana, what's up? Like, nice to see you. Always cool. Met him when I was like, I think 17 or something like that. Super nice. So I always was like, I want to be like that. I wish I could do that, And now it's weird because I am doing that. So it's nice to be like at a table and be like, hey, what's up? Like seeing all the people that I used to really love, or like, yeah. Yeah.
You still are hitting the concert. You have to.
Yes, yeah, and like even signing tours that Joe and I just did. We did like a Midwest signing tour for She Said Destroy, just because it's the best way to meet fans. Not all of them go to comic shops. Some people, go to bookstores and stuff like that. So my first is always going to be a comic shop, but then next, conventions are very, very important. And it's a great way to see all your peers and connect with publishers and your editors and things like that, and especially retailers too. Sometimes, especially for you guys, like that's like your only like vacation break, except it's not really a vacation, but at least it's still working a little bit and you're not at the shop. So
just the nice part. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And you don't ever know who you're going to be working with next. You could find somebody who you mesh with perfectly in one of those.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, making new friends is the best part of those. So that's why I always do them.
You at cons, are you just signing, or do you also do commissions?
I like doing commissions a lot. I think it depends on like the amount of people at the show for me, because I can do commissions at shows like Heroes, smaller shows, like very, Artist Alley centric and focused. Where most of the time it's collectors that are coming to ask for commissions. I can do, quick drawings for kids at shops and stuff like that. That's really easy and fun to kind of like, we're all bantering and like having a great time. But like I've realized recently that larger cons, like, that anytime we have to do press hat and I have to leave my booth and things like that, it's been more and more difficult to do commissions. So it's great. I can actually like just post on Twitter, like, hey, I'm doing like pre-show commissions. You can pick it up the day you get there. I'll be there all weekend. And that's helped a lot. And I think some people are more receptive to that. So that way, like, they know they'll get it. They know I'm not gonna, not finish it at the show, because that's always a bummer. I've been in that spot where I've been like, oh, just ship it to me later, But I would hate, for that to happen with me. So I always try to do pre-show ones now, but I definitely love doing it at the show. I miss, having people like come hang out and watch. But sometimes you miss that interaction. Like if I'm staring at a drawing, like I'm missing out on a good quality conversation sometimes. So it's always a toss-up.
Because like you said, on the one hand, you're missing out on interacting with people who are there to talk to you. But on the other hand, there's something neat about being able to go up to the table and see an artist doing what they do.
Yeah.
Music has zero artistic ability.
What I've tried to do with that to connect and engage with more people was actually, I used to have a Twitch channel that I ran for about 1.5 to 2 years, pretty consistently, where I would draw on stream and a lot of people could come log in, come hang out. It was digital and traditional, but my computer hasn't been able to keep up with the program that runs it. So, and also She Said Destroy was very like, you know, because it was my first co-created comic with Joe and, you know, my first creator owned with a publisher, I wanted to make sure it was really good. So a lot of the time, you know, my focus on a script, like I realized I've tried thumbnailing and sketching with a script while twitching before, but there's, you know, people in the chat asking questions and stuff. And I realized it takes me like 3 to 4 times as long with communicating during the process versus me just doing it and getting it out. So it's the life of, you know, doing sequentials. What was that? I think that the audio cut out a little bit. I'm sorry.
Back to Twitch and continue to do that?
Oh, at some point I hope to. From what I've heard, Twitch is actually coming out with an app for themselves to be able to broadcast as opposed to using like an outsourced app like OBS and stuff like that. So I'm hoping once it's available, I'll do it. However, there is a way to do it on the iPad that I've heard without using your camera. But what I've always thought was the best is like you could watch someone do it at the same time as watching the screen. So we'll see. I'll probably ask my Patreon patrons and ask them what they want first and, you know, test a couple waters since it's been like 8 or 9 months.
Get through the projects you're working on at the moment, and then you can worry about it. Now, what can they just look your name up on Patreon if they wanted to find out the stuff that you do there?
Yeah, definitely. I post a lot of crazy like work in progress stuff, everything from start to beginning, process stuff from where like I'll color a cover and show them like stage by stage, almost like all the layers. Sometimes I post the full files for them to like look at and like maybe deconstruct in their head like how they would color something, or like full pages before the issue comes out, or like just, you know, no context, here's the pencils for this page or anything like that. And I also mail out, you know, I really love post mail. So that's why I started doing Patreon to begin with. So I do a print every month of one of the covers I've done or something like that just for Patreon patrons.
Something in the mail. Have something to open up at home. So no, I can completely understand that and appreciate it. You mentioned coloring. You describe yourself as an illustrator, but you don't color She Said Destroy. Is that a time issue?
Yes, and I think that Vault likes bringing together new people to enhance like a series. So I'm not sure if we ever originally talked about me coloring it, but I know that in my mind I wanted someone else to color it because I wanted to see like how someone else perceives my inks and how they would want to color it. Because I've only really ever worked with 1 or 2 colorists. One is Gab Contreras. She's one of my best friends and we've worked on tons of stuff together. And I thought that it would be better for the series too, and less, you know, with less time consumption, that my inks would be better without worrying about the stress of coloring.
Since it was, as you said, your first co-created, you wanted to put your best foot forward on what you were focusing on, which was the art, and let somebody else come in.
Yeah.
Colorist that they picked is great.
Yeah, Rebecca's phenomenal, and honestly, you know, her being put on Glow and Xena and everything is well deserved, and I can't wait to see what she does next, honestly.
Then what are some of your inspirations? I mean, I can't really make out what's behind you, so I can't guess from that.
Mostly it's a goose from Saga. I could probably show part of my, there's a lot of con stuff on the floor, but I think you can probably see a lot of, I have like, I really love Batman and DC. So you could see probably a lot of like black and white stuff. That's a lot of my image books, like Southern Bastards, and my darker, like, let's see, 30 Days a Night, Outcast, Black Sad, Sadistic Magician, Jim Mafood. And then like some of my other, I have like a whole bunch of stuff in the way, but like all of my like Pretty Deadly, Rat Queens, that whole like image stuff, all my Vertigo stuff, that's on my Why the Last Man. I'm trying to think. I'm obsessed with Destiny. I love Destiny a lot. That's an original by Josh Hickson, who's actually in my Fire team. And things like Paper Girls, that's an original by Cliff Chang because he's the best and I want to be his best friend. Saga, I love Brian K. Vaughan's work. He's one of my favorite writers of all time. I think that's all Walking Dead. Honestly, I love all comics. I really do like superhero stuff too. Like I'm finding a lot of superhero works that fit in my specific needs as a reader. But a lot of the time, so like, for instance, I really love Hawkeye Kate Bishop a lot. That's like one of the new superhero ones that I like. Doom Patrol was obsessed with, huh?
I said Kelly Thompson's run was fantastic.
Yes. And she's so good in general. Like I actually started kind of buying all of her work, like even, Nancy Drew and gosh, I can't even remember. I probably
talking about her, but I've never read Nancy Drew before, but when Kelly took over, I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, she's such a good writer. Oh, I love it. But yeah, I used to be mostly an independent publisher type person, mostly, Image. I'm definitely an old school Image person, Image Vertigo, but I have a lot of love for specific areas in DC and Marvel that I can't not love it.
Yeah, check on the writers and artists. It's funny that you have Gus there though, because you guys actually did a Saga cover for She Said Destroy.
Yes. Yeah, Tim and Nathan Gooden. They are the most incredible. Like I love all their Vault Vintage stuff, and they surprised us with it. And I was like, I think Tim knew that I totally love Saga already, so it's perfect.
Great. It looked really, really good. In fact, all the covers have been really good.
Yeah.
And and I'm hoping it's doing well for you because it has been doing well here. We try to carry a lot of independents. So out of them all, I mean, like I told you earlier, Vault has just been continuing to get people's attention and more.
Yeah, you guys have always been so supportive of Vault. That's why it's so fun to talk to you. You're so supportive of us too. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. You're like, oh, okay, we like them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, I think Holly is one of your customers, and she's the one that first sent me one of your posts and was like, look, they have She Said Destroy, and I was like, yes. And so I was like, that's an immediate follow from me, of course.
I know, nice. Yeah, you're like, of course. So that's great. I mean, it looks like you've got a lot on the horizon. So even though we've gotten our 5 issues and you're taking a break, potentially, hopefully soon here, we're going to be seeing plenty more from you.
Yes, I hope so.
But unfortunately, we can't talk about it. But of course,
I don't have any plans on stopping, I promise.
That is very awesome. So what about conventions? Are you hitting any up here soon that people should be looking for you?
Yes, I will be at Emerald City with a whole brand new setup with all new stuff, especially for the debut of our it'll be 2 months old or 3 months old at that point, the trade for She Said Destroy, and hopefully some new work and ash cans at the table as well. And I'll also be at C2E2 with my brother in comics, Gavin Smith. His table I'll probably be crashing for one of the days, so it'll be fun to meet everyone in Chicago again. That was a really good show as well.
Across the entire thing.
Yeah.
Did you do San Diego?
I did not this year, but I did last year. I would love to do it again this year, but I am actually hoping to do either one con in California at some point that's not San Diego to where I can actually table, or hopefully Thought Bubble next year.
know Emerald's coming, and that's the big one. I love Emerald City. They're looking for stuff, but for some reason it feels like at Emerald City, the people that are to the small press.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely feel like there is a market for more than just, it definitely feels like a very sympathetic show that is very receptive to both like superhero comics and indie comics, and that there's a lot of openness from all different types of fans for that. So that's one of the reasons why I love that show so much.
A lot of fun. It continues to be fun. I want to ask you a couple more things. Number one, there are a lot of people out there who would love to be doing exactly what you're doing. They may start, maybe they've hit a few speed bumps. If you could pick one thing that you've learned, piece of advice that you would give them.
It would probably be between two different ones. One is keep doing it no matter what. Even if it's, what I've realized is even if it's not your best work, don't be afraid to post it. Because if you don't share your work, no one's going to see it. Because most of the time we only share what our best work is. And that doesn't really give a full scope of who you are as a creator. It only gives that very curated part of what you love in your own work. So in order for people to connect with you, sometimes you have to share all different parts of it, which is why I love sharing the work in progress stuff and, small crops of things that I like, but also like show the big thing, regardless of, whether or not I'm happy with the piece or whatever. And the other part is trust your collaborators and communicate with them as much as possible. Like I got really lucky, and all of my collaborators, mostly writers, are all my friends now. We all talk all the time. It's great to have like that perspective of what they're thinking of, because you can only read so much of it without asking questions or anything like that. And I think it makes, making teamwork of comics a lot better, just to have a full, plate of communication.
First one too, because I know a lot of people, they're afraid to put stuff out there unless it's the absolute perfect. But yeah. I mean, the bottom line is with you artists, you're going to notice stuff that the rest of us don't even see. Yeah. One of your pieces.
Yep. That's actually one of the, a lot of friends will be like, what, you're crazy. I'm like, I know the artists have this thing where I think they have a higher understanding of perceived what art should look like, and their skill set is a little bit lower than how they understand where it's supposed to be. So sometimes it doesn't quite match up. So sometimes you're like, oh my God, I did the best work ever. Or sometimes you're like, I'm not quite happy with it. And I know I can't quite figure out why. It's because their understanding of a conceptualized piece is a lot higher. And so it was like on NPR or something. And when I listened to that, I was like, oh, that makes me feel a lot better about like output of work. So that's why I'm like, post everything. Even if it's like a scribble, post it. It's a lot better out there than being hidden,
Then the last thing I want to ask you before we go is, and this is the most important piece of this entire conversation. Traditional ice cream.
What's my favorite ice cream?
Or traditional?
Oh, soft serve or traditional? Shoot.
And
I would have to say soft serve, only because I love sprinkles so much, and sprinkles always go better on soft serve. 100%.
So I'm a traditional guy, and the one thing I noticed about you soft serve people is you always have to explain yourself. Yeah. It's always like, oh, because you can dip it in chocolate, or because I love sprinkles. So I think there's some guilt there. I'm just saying.
A little bit. I do think though, I love food. I'm like a huge foodie. Anybody that sees me at a con, I'm like looking up Yelp the whole time. Like I just need to figure out all the best places to go. But I would say if it's like a gelato or something, that's if that counts as traditional, that's way above soft serve, way above. So it just depends. You know, are we going for the like drive-through soft serve of like a mom and pop shop, or are we talking like 5-star restaurant gelato that they made in the back with like Parmesan or something like that? Because that definitely wins.
And yeah, that's not even fair. We're talking about mom and pop. But no, well, perfect. Well, thank you very much for joining us again, everybody. Just to refresh your memory, go to your local comic book store, check their walls. If they don't have it, it's easy enough to talk to people behind the counter, find out when the trade is coming, have them order you one. Any good comic shop will do that for you and put it on hold. So thank you very much for joining us. It was great to talk to you. I'm looking forward to more work from you, and hopefully you will keep us appraised so we can help spread the word for you.
Yes, Ben, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And you guys have been so supportive, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you for everything. If there's anything I can ever do for you guys, you know, tweet me, email me, anytime.
You enjoy your night. I assume you're probably getting back to work. There's no rest.
Yeah. No rest for the wicked. You're right. Yeah. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
You too. And everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And most of all, thank you for supporting small press and artists and other, writers. So pick up the book. We'll talk to you guys in the shop.